Today I'm talking about push-to-talk communications, PTT for short, and push-to-talk over cellular, otherwise known as PTToC or just POC. I'm going to discuss the differences between them and the pros and cons of each. Today's video is brought to you by Radio Solutions, the UK's largest online supplier of two-way radio equipment and accessories. If you're a business or a consumer and you're after anything radio related, take a look at radio-solutions.co.uk. Push-to-talk radios can be analogue or digital. Digital radios, usually DMR, have many advantages over analog, such as complex group calling, messaging, location tracking, and emergency notifications, but they all have one thing in common. All push-to-talk radios talk directly to another radio. It might be a simple case of one walkie-talkie transmitting directly to another one on the same frequency, or there might be a slightly more complicated repeater setup where a base station up on a hill relays communications out to handsets across a larger area. Either way, they're doing their own thing. PTToC, push-to-talk over cellular, as the name suggests, uses mobile networks to relay communications to another handset. They support all the advanced features of digital mobile radios and combine them with 2, 3, 4 and 5G bandwidth and data transmission and nationwide coverage. It's pretty enticing and kind of seems like the natural progression of all walkie-talkie communication. I've been playing around with two radios before filming this video. On the PTT side is the Motorola DP4400e. It's the epitome of what a walkie-talkie should be, in my opinion. These things are the industry standard, and with good reason. On the push-to-talk over cellular side, I've got the Motorola TLK 100. This radio is important in this context because, although it operates on a cellular network, it's essentially just a good old walkie-talkie. Some PTToC radios have a blurred line really between smartphones and radios. They're just Android devices in a rugged case. The TLK 100 is different. The controls are simple, easy to operate, and the radio is built to last. You just turn it on, set it to the channel you want, and you're good to go. So let's talk about the benefits and downsides of each technology and go into a bit more detail about their differences. We couldn't film a video about walkie-talkies without discussing range. Range and reliable reception is everything when it comes to radio communications. These radios operate at 4 watts on high power. This is the UHF variant, and that operates around 450 megahertz, which gives them a decent range in a built-up area. But how can that compare to these, though? I can turn this on, leave it on my desk, drive 500 miles north up to Scotland or whatever, and chat with someone as if they're in the next room. If you're used to regular walkie-talkies, the first time you use push-to-talk over cellular is a really unusual feeling. Although technically they're not doing much more than a voice call or data transmission does on a mobile phone, which is something we do every day and take for granted, it still feels strange though, driving around freely knowing that when you press this push-to-talk button, you will get the talk permit tone and you'll be received in perfect clarity at the other end. Really, PTToC wins every time when it comes to range. Although closely related, range and coverage are not the same thing, and the distinction is important to highlight when talking about these two radio types. I'm sure there's someone out there who has already said, yeah, but what happens when there's no mobile coverage? And you're dead right. These push-to-talk radios take their coverage with them. The bubble of coverage is wherever the two radios are, sort of flexing in and out depending on your surroundings. And that's the crucial difference here. These can be used for mission-critical work. They have their own independent radio network, reliant on nothing other than these two physically working. Although mobile networks are used by EMS workers increasingly in the UK, there is still a reluctance to class this kind of use as suitable for mission-critical applications. What happens if you're a forester working in Kielder? I know from experience that mobile reception is virtually non-existent there. Equally, what happens if you're working in construction that takes you underground or just into some reasonably dense concrete structure? Can you guarantee mobile coverage? What about on a ship or even on an oil rig? There are just still many scenarios where cellular coverage isn't good enough. That said, before you write off cellular use, consider a few tricks that these radios have up their sleeves to mitigate this shortcoming. Firstly, the SIMs in these are multi-network. You're not tied to one operator like EE or Vodafone or O2. The radio will use whichever operator will do the job best in that particular area. So when you're looking into coverage, you need to look at all operators, not just one. Now this doesn't remove all black spots, but it sure adds a few nice patches of extra coverage across the map. Secondly, these mobile radios have a dedicated antenna, separate from the body of the radio. Now we're used to mobile reception on devices that have antennas that are hidden because of size and style purposes, and you might have your hands covering them, causing an attenuation in signal. Now I've no doubt that these will perform slightly better in low signal areas just because the aerial protrudes from the body of the device, just like mobile phones used to do in the past. And thirdly, probably most importantly, these can also connect via Wi-Fi. So if you're working at a facility with solid Wi-Fi throughout, you can get straight onto an IP network, and from there, the world is your oyster. You could speak to people across the globe with ease. This Motorola is top of the range and costs about £400 to £500 per radio. I'm assuming no volume or account-related discounts here. On top of that, you have to acquire a suitable license. In the UK, that's governed by Ofcom. If you're unsure about what license is required, Radio Solutions can manage that for you. The TLK 100 costs £350 for the radio, but of course remember, you're hopping onto a mobile operator's network, so they will ask for a subscription for that. So you will have an ongoing cost related to that. Now this could put some users off, but I think if radios are critical to your business, it's not a high cost, and if deployed correctly, it can easily be made back through improved efficiency and better communication.
Analog PTT can sound great if you have a good radio and a strong signal. DMR can sound okay, but getting used to it takes some time, and the aggressive audio compression used in the DMR standard leaves a lot to be desired. Even a top-of-the-range radio like this can't make DMR sound good.
Push-to-talk over cellular, on the other hand, completely blew me away. Bear in mind that I've only used this one radio, but the clarity of the loudspeaker on the TLK 100 is the best in class, and the communications themselves are everything I wanted DMR to be. They sound crystal clear and easy to understand, and there's nothing else like it in the walkie-talkie world.
Analog push-to-talk and many basic DMR deployments are entirely reliant on programming cables and computers to manage the radios. Effectively, you've got to bring the radio back to base in order to change anything. More advanced DMR setups do have over-the-air radio management, but for push-to-talk over cellular, programming cables are just not a thing anymore. When it comes to cellular radios, and every aspect of radio management can be carried out at any time from anywhere, and that's exactly how things should be. Now I would like to talk about this a bit more, but I don't have access to the management side of these radios, so I can't give you a demo of the software or anything like that. Maybe something for a future video. Push-to-talk radios come in every shape and size to suit every taste and requirement. It is crazy how much choice there is out there and how many variants some manufacturers manage to produce for what is basically the same radio. On the push-to-talk over cellular size, the choice is growing, but right now it's kind of at a nice level where you've got enough choice to cover all the sort of the functionality you might need, but there aren't the hundreds of random radios out there completely muddying the waters. As you can see, these are two different technologies, both with their own massive benefits. If you need nationwide coverage, push-to-talk over cellular is probably going to be the only choice. If you need to communicate over a smaller area, but you want to be entirely self-reliant, push-to-talk is your only choice. There is, however, lots of middle ground, so you'll probably either need to figure that out for yourself, or alternatively, you could contact Radio Solutions for assistance. They've got years of experience and will be able to advise on what's needed to make your radio setup work for you. Check out the link in the description for more information. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and if you've got any questions, put them down in the comments as usual, and I will do my best to answer them. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you again soon.